Welcome back everybody, and today we're going to play Let's Make Our Space Marines Disappear. That's right, we're going to try doing a bit of camouflage rather than make them stand out on the battlefield. We want them to blend in slightly, and there's several different approaches and patterns that appear to be available that you can use, and I'm sort of interested in more the urban sort of approach, and the color options typically tend to be 3 or 4 colors with a range of similar tonings, but some also have more of a contrast with a pop of brightness, and they typically have about 4 of those colors on the patterning, and they tend to be somewhat organic, and I thought that might be easy enough to do on this little guy here, and therefore the idea was we'll find a palette of colors that might be workable in that particular instance, starting with a black base coat and applying burnt sienna over the top of the black, and it provides an inky greeny olive type color, which is quite interesting considering it's actually brown, but it seemed like a good start as a base. I just felt it was easier, saves doing recess shading and various other things at the end of the day if you start with a dark base and then progressively layer your colors up over the top, but it does make it difficult to actually see where you're putting the colors on the model. But them's the breaks. So I had a few different colors that I chose. One was just Unforgiven Green, because this is a sort of a dark color. It's more sort of a grey green. I also chose Magnolia Brown, which again is this very sort of muted dark brown, and finally a sort of a pop highlight, which is the light cadre grey. So when you've got those 3 layered over the top of the burnt sienna, you end up getting that 4 color combination. So you don't have to be necessarily so precise with your application, because you want some of the, if you like, the base coat of the burnt sienna to shine through, and then you just progressively layer up your organic shapes onto that. Now it certainly took a few applications to ultimately get to where I wanted to be with the final product. It took probably about 3 or 4 at times, just progressively going back in and touching up to ensure that you've got the density of color so that you do get enough variation when you look at it. But obviously the idea is to be very similar in terms of tonings, with a pop at the end, which is the light grey coloration, which just gives that point of interest, and that's what I was really trying to look for. I didn't want everything to be so muted that it just looked like mud. And then I followed up, after actually sort of doing most of the base coats, with a bit of a very subtle wash where I just took the green and grey and sort of really diluted it down, and then just coated the whole thing just to sort of unify the whole lot, so that there was a less of an obvious transition between the parts or the color options, just so that it had a bit of consistency across it. With the base design laid down with regards to the camouflage, just time then to spend on fixing up the rest of the model, such as exposed body parts like his head and the weapon, and then the base. And I just started on the head, just putting down a couple of different colors of brown, just using the Vallejo paints, using Beastie Brown, and then overlying a color called Dark Flesh Tone over that, just to bring in some highlights. I clearly didn't go as highlighty as I should have, and it could definitely have a little bit more variation and lightness towards the top and on the high ridges, the eyebrows, that sort of thing. But at the time when you're doing it, you think it looks fine till you retrospectively go back and examine it and realize that you're miles off. But anyway, we gave it a bit of a go with that, just to at least improve the appearance, and then started looking at the actual weapon itself and the rest of the armor, and just with the Aquila and sort of exhaust vents, various other things, just using a straight black. Just to darken them down. We don't want to add any detail or interest into them, because it's supposed to be camouflage, so theoretically it should blend in. At least that's my opinion. And with the weapon, all I did was put some of the camouflage type coloration over the casing, and then get a little bit creative by using cryptic armor shade or canoptic armor shade on the front of the weapon, just to give it a little bit of a gloss appearance, and then coming back in with the magnolia brown just around the leading edge to take that away, thereby giving it the appearance that it's sort of been maybe heat treated rather than doing the typical heat coloration. Again, we're trying to keep everything muted to see if that has an effect, and then detailing some of the other elements on the weapon by using some lead belcher and then coating that with some Agrax Earthshade just to dull it all down and blend it in. And then finally start playing around with the base, which I don't remember what color it actually was. I painted way back before I even began the model. It was a yellowish hue that I had, and so I thought I'll just build it up with progressive lightening of greys and then darken the recesses a little bit using speed paint just to tone everything down to sort of blend it in to some extent to what he's wearing, but give it an earthy type appearance. And that's where we ended up. So all in all, it took approximately 4 hours to put this little guy together, as you see him, and most of that was taken up actually just doing the fiddly work of the paint scheme. I think the best thing to do is have your colors laid out in advance, what you intend to do, and then build it up progressively as I did, and then you get the right aesthetic. And clearly with Camouflage though, you've got the opportunity to go in and touch up here and there because you don't have sharp lines to worry about. But all in all, the exercise seemed to work relatively well. He does appear to be wearing some form of camouflage scheme, and hopefully he doesn't get his head blown off in battle. So thanks again for watching, and see you in the next one.